Well, good morning, everybody. It's Sunday, September 8th, 2024. And I hope you guys enjoyed the Honey Milk Ranch update on the backup channel yesterday. We're going to do all the Honey Milk Ranch videos on the backup channel from now on, just because when you start mixing genres of this kind of stuff, it can rub some people the wrong way. Let's just put it that way. I don't understand that, but that's what some people just believe, and that's their right to believe that. So we're going to keep all of the Honey Milk Ranch stuff on the separate channel, even though I feel like all of it's connected, and I've shown examples of, how the stuff that we see on the Honey Milk Ranch fits right into a lot of the decoding that we do. It's not for everybody. Anyway, for those of you that did show up, that was a lot of fun. You got to see updates on the boat and the deer cleaning station and all kinds of cool stuff. So thanks for supporting the backup channels as well. Now, what are we here to do today? Well, today we're going to get into the majority of season 2 from the TV series Continuum. And it did not disappoint. There were direct mentions of the Ouroboros, literally by name, and of course, more of the technocracy police state that is happening now, and all sorts of other like Minority Report type disclosure. So, well, let's get started on the majority of season 2 of Continuum. Now, in this episode, or in this particular episode that we're going to start with today, future Kira is the main character who travels back in time to fight a sect of terrorists who want to change the course of human history. They're actually going against the corporations who have gained control of the world, which sounds like a good cause, and it is a good cause, but their tactics involve lots and lots of collateral damage and killing the innocent. So Kira tracks a killer, and she's basically, this is a future Kira, so they're flashing backwards and forwards in the two timelines, and she tracks a killer called the Ouroboros. Watch this.
Snake that eats its own tail. Snake that eats its own tail. Snake that eats its own tail. 38 victims, all dropped off on a circular bus route.
Uroboros, 2009 to 2018.
That's how it got its name.
It seems this Ouroboros killer was also obsessed with eyes.
Nice work.
So as you just saw, they call it the Ouroboros killer, obsessed with eyes. Wow. Now watch this and I'll explain all this later.
Ouroboros. This is your case. The victims were mostly child molesters. We called it the Ouroboros case. 38 victims laid out in a circle that turns out to be a bus route. No beginning, no end, only death. The case was never solved.
That's why I have to open your eyes to the truth.
So Kira is captured by the Ouroboros killer, as you can see here, and this script is full of biblical references. You just heard the eyes being opened, and you're going to hear stuff about the knowledge of the tree of good and evil, as this killer literally slices off his victims' eyelids so that they could see their sin. So they have to stare in their sin. Whoa.
I have knowledge from the future. I can prove it.
We are still years away from enjoying complete surveillance of the network.
So next you're going to hear clues about the Minority Report, pre-crime, Technocracy. I've been telling you guys about this for years, as many other people have, that the more technology we get, it's only going to end up with freedom being taken away. it only makes sense, right? Because this is all about the efficiency of policing. Typically, police had to do a lot of work to catch people doing wrong things. Well, with technology, they can zero in on anybody breaking any law. So now they have a lot more time to basically zero in on collecting revenue from people breaking laws. They don't have to patrol anymore, right? Now, this sounds like a great thing until you realize that along with this technocracy comes babysitting and nitpicking and unfair laws that nobody agrees with. Well, with technology, they're able to still catch every single person doing something that's breaking a law, even though there are laws that typically they weren't either able to enforce or couldn't catch people doing because the laws were just so silly, right? Well, all that's coming to an end. And now it's going to get to the point where there's actually going to be pre-crime. And it's actually already happening now. Let's listen to this guy. He's talking about network limitations being the only reason why they can't catch more people doing stuff.
You prove it.
We are still years away from enjoying complete surveillance. But the network's out there if you know how to use it.
That's how.
I saw what you and your advances did in the future. Destroyed them if they became inconvenient.
There are safeguards, proprietary safeguards that I'll put in place. Things don't have to turn out the way you think.
Talk. Word. Put every human being on a leash. Jerked it when you didn't like their behavior.
He is a ticking time bomb. We have to be one step ahead of him.
Am I missing something? I'm not sure what we're doing here. I mean, Julian's a free man.
Just because the judge signed his release doesn't absolve what's in his heart.
One camera located Julian, but by the time the software was able to ID him and report it, an hour had passed. Well, I'm linked into the city's cameras using the RCMP's face recognition program. Problem is, it's really, really slow. When just saying the line gets fuzzy.
Some of these people have been arrested for simply looking at the wrong website or an email that suggests Liberate might have an argument against the corporations.
This is our...
Can you believe this? These episodes aired in 2013. And here we are 11 years later. And they're talking about arresting people for their thoughts, which of course is happening right now. It happened with the riots that went down in the UK. They were arresting people for online sentiment, just putting an email or a post in support of what was happening there. And they literally knocked on their door and arrested them. So this is why we cover this predictive programming, because it all ends up happening. Now, how are they going to tighten the screws in the technocracy? Well, the more network power they have, the more efficient the system is. They can do things in real time. They can do searches, faster computers. Artificial intelligence processes the information in real time so that they can essentially guess to see if a crime is going to happen or not. And this is where you get into digital targeting. Micro-policing is a new term that I've come up with. Micro-policing, to where they can literally harass certain people or keep an eye on them. And next thing you know, you're getting ticketed for crimes that you even have not committed yet, or you're getting nitpicked and fined and thrown in jail. And then what happens after that? Your property is taken because you can't pay your fines, right? So this is very serious. This is the part of technology that we need to reject. And it doesn't matter what president comes into power, we need to all reject this, Democrat or Republican. Now, this next part is a little bit troubling, because at this point, they flash forward back to the future, and being in debt becomes one of the highest offenses. They blame all the world's problems on people's inefficiency in our society. And once they fail to pay their debts, their free will is turned off and they are literally turned into debt slaves. Watch this.
This is ARC. It's a way to take the entire internet and distill it into one single page of information. It's the ultimate window into real-time data at light speed.
This is your third infraction. Therefore, in accordance with Statute 11, your citizenship is voided. 22501. You have been found by the corporate court guilty of civic debt default.
I can repay my debts if you'll just give me a chance.
Progress cannot be made. If we don't, I'll do our share. I hereby sentence you to a mandatory life sentence.
No, please.
They stick this chip in the back of her neck, turns off her free will, and she becomes literally a debt slave until her debts are paid off. But in this case, it's a life sentence. So they basically erase her mind, and now she gets to work off her debt for the rest of her life. Look at the chip they put in her neck. It's literally a hexagon. You can't make this up. Now, this is why I tell people, pay off your debts now. You don't want any debt hanging over your head in these last days. Stay as far away from fines as you can, fines and fractions that could result in liens against your real property. Because soon there will be debtor's prison. It's coming. It's coming. So she gets chipped with the hexagon, which is the shape of the Matrix prison, which we've talked about at length. And then at this point, they explain how they can use 5G to give people blood clotting issues in real time. Does this sound familiar? Watch this part.
Welcome to New Pemberton. Take it to the shop floor, workstation 213.
Sequencing process initiated. 2215, proceed to station 4. 3217 is now operational. Workstation 5.
Aneurysms.
Both at the same time, right before testifying.
There's no wounds of any kind. I need to do an autopsy to determine whether poison was involved, but the visible trauma suggests an aneurysm.
It would be extreme low frequency.
Concealed weaponized ELF disruptor? No, I don't think so.
What, too sci-fi for you?
Can't make this up, you guys. ELF frequencies causing aneurysms. And so they're just telling you right in your face right there. Now, this is the time travel device. And it's essentially 7 slices, sections that are cut like almost like an orange, like pulling an orange apart. And each slice has great power. And Kira's team is in possession of a single slice of what amounts to a piece of fruit, is what this is. Now, they call this an arc, and I played that clip a little bit earlier. And the arc has so much power that it can basically do the computing power of a supercomputer. And it is essential in using the surveillance state software. That's the only way that they can search in real time. So they're essentially telling you everything that's going to happen that's actually happening right now. Let's keep watching here. Now, given what we uncovered a little bit ago about the Ouroboros, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and all the other Bible mentions in this series, you have to wonder if this object that I just showed you is the fruit that's mentioned in the garden. You know, the fruit that Adam and Eve partook of. I believe that she trapped us all in this dimension of time. Wow. So that decode brought us up to, let's see, episode 11 of season 2. I've got a few more to go, and then I'll be into season 3. There's 4 total seasons, so I'm going to take care of all that probably within the next 2 decodes. But let's talk about what time really is before we get into some of these other stories on today's show. What is time? Now, some people believe that time is simply a perception, that if we could unperceive time, then it wouldn't really exist. But I personally believe that time is sin. When sin entered the world, when sin entered the garden, as the Bible says, Eve surely died, just like God said. And at that point, her time was limited. Limited by what? Well, it was limited by sin. So there was now an end point to her time. And whatever effect or influence sin has over us. Now, everybody knows that every object in our reality has a magnetic field around it. And it's shaped much like the device that I just showed you. It's shaped like a piece of fruit. The basic core image of an apple, for instance, is a magnetic field shape. Why do you think that is? It is because the fruit grows into that shape. In other words, if there was no magnetic field, the fruit would be a different shape, wouldn't it? Things are literally growing into the manifested reality. They're growing into the shapes of these things because this is the magnetic field that is around all life. And I believe that this is what's causing us to degrade. It's a feedback mechanism. It's a loop. A toroid field is a loop. It goes in and comes out, and it can't escape. And this is what I believe these particle accelerators around the world are really looking for. They're looking for a way to shed the magnetic field of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, because these magnetic fields look like trees. And apparently there's 2 of these trees that we are trapped in between, which is why we're stuck here and which is why we die. It's a choice that was made by humanity to enter into these trees, this reality. The only way out is through between the trees, the narrow gate, between the 2 trees, between the thieves of the crucifixion, through Jesus Christ. Now, do I know all this to be true? No, these are just our best guesses. So we have to wait until Christ's return, until we actually understand how all this actually works, right? But the answer is Him. Okay, there's no doubt in my mind, because all of the symbolism and even science seems to point to the salvation plan that Christ laid out. Literally, when the thieves were on the cross, He was describing the 2 magnetic field trees that were stuck in, the trees of the knowledge of good and evil. So how did Jesus know physics? Well, it's because He is God. He is the Son of God. And He knew. And that's how we have to escape, is through belief in Him. So I had to show you this continuum first, because Kira has a super suit that she can turn on and make herself transparent. So that fits perfectly into this next story that I'm going to show you about transparent mice. Now, how did the mice become transparent? They fed them orange slices as well. Orange slices of what? Doritos. Now, I know these two things seem completely unrelated, but they're actually very related. I couldn't even believe this. But literally, these mice can cloak. They become invisible when they were fed the dye that's in Doritos. They call it a magic trick. This is USA Today. This is real. Let me check in with you guys, and we'll read this and a couple other stories for today. I couldn't even believe this. Now, have you guys heard of this yet? Did any of the other channels cover this? Good morning, everybody. Whoa, nuts, right? All right, I'm just reading the chat here. Yes, Jesus made physics. Thank you. Leaves of Gold. Absolutely 100% correct. That's how he knew. So you could literally eat the dye in Doritos and disappear from this life. I'm not making this up, you guys. We'll read the story in a minute here. I'm just checking in with you guys, see if you guys have any feedback or anything you want to discuss about the TV show Continuum before we move on. Now, why is something like that still on the store shelves? Why are they allowed to make these things and give people a choice to eat them or not eat them? Look, I would rather have these people not provide these kinds of foods than to tell us that we can or can't eat the foods, right? Because that's just like control. But why won't they not make this stuff? Why will they not make this stuff? Let's take a look at this, you guys. Doritos are a revered snack for many. Now scientists have found one of the ingredients in the triangle-shaped tasty tortilla chip has a superpower. It can make the skin of mice transparent. Now, there are pictures here, and I couldn't even believe this. Stanford University, September 6th. They could see through the skin of living mice by applying a mixture of water and tartrazine, a bright yellow-orange food coloring used in Doritos and other foods, drugs, and cosmetics. The experiment arose from the quest for better methods to see tissue and organs within the body. So they say here that they chose tartrazine because the dye's molecules absorb blue and ultraviolet light, which make it easier for light to pass through the mouse's skin. The Doritos effect is a snack ingredient yields invisible mice. Now, here they show it. Now, we talked about structural color, didn't we? We talked about light reflecting and scattering off of surfaces to create color. Well, in this instance, all the color is absorbed. So you can literally see right through the mouse. And this is kind of disgusting. But look at these images of the mouse's skin that you can literally see right through into its internal organs. Whoa. Now, they're making a joke about this. It says here, after testing the mice tissues samples and raw chicken breasts, the researchers rubbed the dye and water solution onto the skulls and abdomens of the mice. As the dye was absorbed within a few minutes, they could see the skin, muscle, and connective tissues transparent in live rodents. Once researchers wash off the dye, the mice lost their translucency and the dye is excreted through urine. It's important that the dye is biocompatible. It's safe for living organisms. So they're literally saying it's safe. Oh my goodness. Before you start slathering yourself in Doritos, the coloring is used in several Doritos flavors, including nacho cheese, Cool Ranch, and flaming hot nacho. Tartrazine won't necessarily give humans a cloak of invisibility a la Harry Potter. That's because human skin is about 10 times thicker than a mouse, and it's not sure how much of the dye or how it would be administered is needed to work in humans. This is absolutely unreal. So, this is just a big joke. Literally, the dye used in Doritos can make you invisible. Huh. Now, let's get into this last story today. And this is crazy. Wisconsin just had a recent zombie outbreak. What am I talking about? Well, look at this guy. We're seeing more and more of these violence clusters. Law enforcement notices significant increase in incidents with violent people in central Wisconsin. Now, I've got a theory as to what this is, but right here off the bat, looking at this individual with the side of his head shaved and the side of his face swollen, I have some theories as to what this could be about, because there's something about central Wisconsin that you need to know about. What it appears as though we're looking at with this man here, who is at the center of this violence cluster, or one of the people that was picked up, what we appear to be looking at are swollen lymph nodes. Now, as many of you know, back in my 30s, trigger warning here, I was infected by a rare disease called cat scratch fever. Now, once you have cat scratch fever, you can't get it again. Your body creates antibodies and you're cured of it. In fact, they didn't even tell us that we had to kill the cats that we had. We did not have to euthanize them. We were able to keep the cats. They said, once you recover from this, you have antibodies for life. But I had cat scratch fever. And what is it? Well, it's the Bartonella Hensley virus. Here it is right here. The Bartonella Hensley virus. Let's let these pages load up here. Now, I believe this all happened to me for a reason, so that I could warn the body of Christ in the role that I'm in now as a whistleblower and as someone who wants to help people come to Jesus Christ and also be prepared for the last days. I believe God had this happen to me for a reason, so that I could talk about this, because I believe that these kinds of diseases will be the diseases that are going to be the vector for the zombie apocalypse. If this page will ever load up. Now, what is this about? Well, this is about aggressive, senseless violence and where everything is headed, by people who seem to be out of their minds. Now, I didn't get any psychological symptoms when I got cat scratch fever. Apparently some people do. But let's talk about this outbreak of violence in Wisconsin. And check out these pictures of similar people who have had swollen lymph nodes. Now, I had swollen lymph nodes just like this guy right here in this picture. I actually had to have a surgery on my face to remove a giant lymph node underneath my sideburn. It was about this size too. And I lived with this for like 2 or 3 years while I was working in sales. So I had to have it removed. My daughter, her neck swelled up. My son got it too. His forearms swelled up. The only one who didn't get it was my ex-wife. She may have already been exposed to it when she was younger. We don't know. So, what is the Bartonella Hensley virus? Well, it is a virus that actually causes the cat scratch fever. I don't know why these pages aren't loading, and I apologize, you guys. But let's read this article while this loads up. Wood County, Wisconsin. The Woods County Sheriff's Office, multiple agencies have noticed a significant increase in critical incidents involving individuals with firearms. According to the release on August 20th, multiple law enforcement members were fired upon by one of these violent individuals during a vehicle pursuit. It is clear that Mayotte was not just firing at officers to deter officers from pursuing him, but to try and kill them. Nobody was hit by gunfire during the pursuit that spanned several miles. Eventually, Mayotte was shot by an officer after a standoff while he continued to fire at officers. Mayotte survived the shooting, and his bond was set for $2.1 million. Now, what are these violent incidents going on? What is this about? Well, Wood County this is Wood County here, is very close to a particular primate research center. All right, let's figure this out. I don't know what's going on with these pages. Sorry, guys. Pages not loading. See if we can get this to work. Okay, this is the lymph node swelling that appears as though this is what this guy experienced here in this picture. This is Wood County, where all this took place in this recent outbreak of violence. And this is the Primate Research Center, just 3 counties over from where this happened. Wisconsin National Primate Research Center. Now, as many of you know, before the 1970s, there was no such thing as things like Lyme disease, which cat scratch fever is actually a complication of. And we know from research that Lyme disease spread from 2 places, 2 biolabs. One was in Plum Island on the East Coast, the other in central Wisconsin. 3 counties away from this outbreak of violence. Wow. Now, I read into this particular Primate Research Center, and I found that there were all kinds of atrocities happening against these apes and monkeys. In fact, there were regular escapes from the facility. They've got them all documented here in this Wikipedia article. Regular escapes from these facilities. And there was animal torture. In one particular instance, there was a place that they called the Pit of Despair, where they would literally place monkeys in isolation for up to 10 weeks. Many of the monkeys that escaped ended up harming themselves. In a couple instances, they mentioned their tongues being cut out and the loss of fingers and toes. So it makes sense that this kind of spiritual violence against animals probably came back around full circle. You know, punishment always fits the crime when it comes to the Most High, right? So these people are doing all these things to these apes and monkeys, basically torturing them for money, for research. And then this very county, 3 counties over, is where they're having this outbreak of violence. I mean, look at the map. Here's the outbreak of violence, and here is the Primate Research Center. Almost the same location. Just crazy. Now, let me go back into the chat and get your guys' thoughts on all this. Unbelievable. Yeah, my computer's running super slow today. Not sure what's going on. Could be the internet. Good morning, everybody. All right. Okay. You guys have any questions before we pop off here? Yeah, isn't that nuts? Oh, you guys lost me for a bit. Yeah, it was white for a while. The screen was white while I was trying to load. So yeah, that just happened. This page wouldn't load. 2 pages that wouldn't load. So sorry about that. All right. When does the show end? Oh, it ends when Jesus comes back. So we keep exposing the lies. We stay close to him. And he said, all this has to happen. In fact, we're supposed to kind of be happy about it because that means the end is near when we see all these things happening. It's a sign of the end times. So we're supposed to look forward to his new kingdom, not this old kingdom. I know it seems depressing and it seems sad, but it's actually the shape of things to come. So, yeah, I took the reason why we started the show a little bit late today is because I had an opportunity to hunt a deer blind at my friend's property. Didn't see any deer this morning. I was out there before the sun came up and I stayed in the blind for a bit, but I did have a coyote come through and he came within 10 feet of me because I was in the blind. He couldn't see me. And I think he caught my wind and then ran off, but it was pretty crazy having a coyote within 10 feet of you. So, yeah, I may upload I may upload some pictures to, I don't know, maybe the Facebook group or something of the coyote, because I did get some pictures of it. Rittenhouse and the Wisconsin riots. Yeah, isn't that crazy, Carla? Yeah, I think we're on to something. There's something about that area. We had one video where we actually looked at the spread of Lyme disease in Wisconsin. There was an actual map of it. And it covered the course of several years. And they showed like this area on the map that showed Wisconsin, and we tracked it back and we looked, and you could literally see the trail of disease originating from the Primate Research Center. There's a huge blob, and it starts at the Primate Research Center and then travels north and east away from it. So we did a video on that years ago. So all right. Okay, guys, I guess I'm going to pop off of here. Thanks for showing up today. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Likely see you guys tomorrow. Much love. Take care.